Ranjit Pawar, who is Senior Vice President at Byju, and also the Global CFO for all the Byju subsidiaries globally. Ranjit had incidentally has something in common with Shrenik because he started his career in Deloitte, post which he's had a stellar career with Amazon. And over the last about 9 months, he's been with Byju's. Ranjit, coming over to you, I mean, if you look at some of the functional areas within, say, the CFO's office, right, in a corporate, whether it's treasury, tax, controllership, FP&A, and maybe there are some other emerging areas as well. I mean, any inputs to our participants today on what would be the right places to now place their bets on?
Yeah, I'll take a slightly different answer when it comes to corporate, having been in all of those. You can hear me, right? I always do.
Yes.
Uh, okay. And the reason is, uh, my advice would be don't slot yourself in anything. There are certain verticals which are more of a career, like treasury, for example. You could go and be a start at the in treasury and go all the way and be the treasurer of a company. That's kind of like a vertical. If that's something you like, you can do that. But I would say you should keep yourself open. I mean, if you have a very specific uh, liking, then obviously go for it. But I would say I had a very clear mind what I wanted to do up to my MBA was done. Very clear. That's why I said at the beginning, I said, I'm going to do my BCom. I'm going to give 4 years for CA. Then I'm going to, if I do my CA in India, I'm going to do my MBA in the US. Because at that point, at least back then in 2001, CA, MBA, the lines were so blurred, it didn't give you any additional value add. And I said, I don't want to do that. But then after that, I said, I was open to it. I said, whatever, let me just learn. And to answer your question specifically, one thing which will definitely always be there is business support, business finance support. Now, that business finance support can take various forms. If you could be in a traditional retail business and be the finance partner for that business, you could be, like in my career, I was kind of the CFO of some of the startups which we acquired. So that meant generalist. Then in the credit card business, I was actually, because it was a financial product, I was almost like the product manager. So I would say get the experience. Like my path was, I was clear, like, okay, I want to go down the CFO path. And to do that, you have to put a timeline for yourself. And you say 2 years here, 2 years there, 2 years here. No, let it flow. It'll naturally come to you that as you learn what you're in the field that you are. So I was a lot in business finance support. I found that the most interesting. The reason why I found that interesting was not from the finance side, but because I actually love the business. So I still get more and more involved in the business side, even at the entry level. Like my peers on the business side would say, okay, this guy wants to come and attend all our product meetings, and I just listen, and I'm like not thinking from a finance perspective. So I guess to answer your question, it's like don't slot yourself. Be open to the ideas, and as you go along the way, you feel like, okay, I've learned this area, then go to the next area, right? Like you can keep learning more, or you might say, okay, I've learned about business support. How does corporate FP&A work? Now, I chose personally to join corporate FP at the end of my career, and my personal choice was, if I join very early, I might get a very siloed small portion of it at Amazon, versus where let me go when I'm so. But if you ask me what will be in the next 3 years, I will say, we are all going towards technology. So see that you understand the technology that you're partnering, and don't be uh, very stuck in your views of this has to be done in a certain way. Be willing to adopt technology in finance and how it helps your business partner. Then it doesn't matter which specific area. All areas are growing. If you take tax, complexity in tax is growing because of cross border. Each company is now cross-border. Transfer pricing. My niece is doing her articleship at ENY, and she was just telling me, I'm like, we pay you so much money to Shrenik and everybody for all of the advisory services, right? Because you have to get the sign off from your advisory services. So it can be in any place that you want. That is, I would say, but as long as you are willing to learn that technology can be used in a very unique way in finance and accounting, then you will stay with the curve. If you stay back and say, no, this has to be done this way because this is how I learned in my previous company, or this is what I learned while I was doing my audit as an intern, then you're going to be left on the wayside, or people are not going to come to you as a trusted finance partner.
He says he's working with the big four in the corporate tax practice and he's trying to move to the industry. But because he's specialized only in tax, he's finding difficulty in joining the finance profile due to lack of experience in accounts. Okay, how do we deal with this? So working in corporate tax practice should not hinder in switching my profile is what he feels. Okay, so direct question to you, Ranjit. I mean, will Byju's be willing to hire Kiran in an accounting role?
Right. So the way I would answer that question, and I have a feeling I'm going to have this conversation with my niece as well. She's a tax. She's focusing on tax at ENY. Uh, the way I would go with this, Kiran, is you know, when you switch, it's the hardest. You're trying to sell the next person why she should hire you, right? When you're going to join a new place. Uh, the easier way to approach that in my, and like, this is my personal opinion, right? I would say go join the tax department in that company, right? If you're currently in a big four, you're in that, you want to break into the industry first. So two things you're trying to achieve: you're trying to get out of that, get into industry, and switch, so to speak, switch your core domain. So the easier way is you go and join the tax of a company which you admire, work there for a bit, impress them, earn their trust, speak and interact, build your relationship and your brand within that company. And then it gets easier to say, hey, I'd like to transition into your accounting team or your finance team. Otherwise, if you think of it from the interviewer's perspective and the company's perspective, why should I might be a little, I might pause a little bit, like Kiran. Yes, he is really good. Or sorry, Kiran could be a woman. Sorry, so Kiran is good, but I'll be taking a chance. I have a candidate B who probably is in the space. So why should I take a chance? Uh, I have to take Kiran's word for it. So Kiran, I would say go through the path that you are an expert in and where you can say I can do it. That's how I would have approached it, because now you've got into the industry. Now you in the organization, people know you. They say Kiran knows, and we can take a chance on Kiran because Kiran has certain leadership skills, and skills like, bias for action. I'll keep throwing all the Amazon ones because I know those by heart. It's ingrained in me. But dive deep, bias for action, ownership. These are not functional expertise, but these are character traits. And if you have that, people are willing to take a chance. Does that answer the question, I guess, Venkat?
There's a question from Girija who says that she's an MBA finance with 20 years experience in F&A, specialized in software implementation, process upgradation, and customization. I want to shift from consulting mode to industry. I'm very disappointed, Girija. Till now, I thought you would be a great candidate for Practus. But fair enough, you want to shift from consulting to industry. Whether learning BI, BA and having degree will increase my chances.
Learning BI, BA, it's something, if you're hearing that you have to have that. But when you have 20 years of experience in it's what you always want to market to the interviewer is your skill set, right? There's never going to be that perfect, this is what I have. There will always be, but it'll be few of those. It's the skill set that the interviewer is looking for, or what is it. With 20 years of experience, you basically have different skill sets that are there. You don't have to know the same thing, but you know how to implement the framework, the thought process. That's what people are looking for. I don't know everything at all. Like in fact, I'm the least knowledgeable at times when there are specialists, and I'm always ready to learn. What I'm looking for is, do you have the thought process and the clarity with that at that level of how do you break down a problem, how do you solve a problem. So, and for the ones who are more younger in the career, I had at least 6 or 7 versions of my resume. I wasn't lying on any of them. It's just that on some resumes some things were highlighted more, and some other resumes some other things were highlighted more. I took the trouble, like I was trying to apply to Expedia experience, but highlighted some other things. So take the time to see what that job posting is, what is it that they are looking for, and what you have, you know, adjust your language there and highlight that when you speak with them. Don't talk about, whenever you're doing an interview, you're trying to help the interviewer understand how you will add value to their organization, and don't make that interviewer and try to figure out how what you've done will help her, right? So I would say you don't have to do a specific course to do it. You just have to see whether what they're looking for is what you, how would you help them understand that you're, it's a broad experience of 20 years. How would you best adapt to that?
Prasad, Arvind, and this is probably the last question. We are kind of in the last 5 minutes. Aditi is reminding me. So Prasad's very interesting question. He says he's got 14 years of experience in finance and accounts, and he's a team lead. And the next level, which he's seeing, is as a people manager. And he says he tried, but he was not successful. So is there any kind of a course in team management that he could take up?
The one thing I would say is, as you start having even 1 direct, 2 directs, 3 directs, the number one thing when you start becoming a people manager is how do you learn and focus on the improvement. I've seen people focusing on reprimanding when you make a mistake. Like, why did you do that? Like, that's not the way. You're never going to earn their trust and their passion to work with you if you're just there to find faults. Like, I realize when I talk to, especially, it's also a cultural thing in how in different countries it is. Having experienced a couple of like US and India, people go very defensive. I'm sorry, and I know this was the reason. Like, it's okay. We can make mistakes. You can unwind mistakes. You can unwind. But I focus on what is the mechanism we are going to put in place. Tell me that so that we can avoid this next time. And the moment you focus on that, your team becomes more happy, is more respectful. Like, okay, this person is not here to just shout at me or tell me you made mistakes and this is wrong. How could you do this? It's not the end of the world. You have to change that mindset of yours from focusing on the error, then rather than how do you fix and put up, a systematic improvement in place. That's the only way. I've had people follow me everywhere I go. Then like, can I come to your team? Can I come to your team? And the only way you do that is you genuinely are interested in their learning, because their success means your success. You can't do everything. If your direct line does a good job, it reflects on you. It makes your life easier. So focus. Even when the first direct happens, second direct report early work for me very well.